Hi, my name is Molly, and I am going to be doing my Grantmaker presentation on the National Park Foundation. So, the National Park Foundation really is focused on, protecting the National Park Service. The Park Service itself was established in 1916, but it had been acquiring lands for a long period of time before that for the protection and preservation for the people to enjoy. Now, when the Park Service was established in 1916, people could, go and enjoy their national parks, but they really had no way of directly supporting their national parks. First Lady, Lady Bird Johnson, was one of the first people to try and change that. Her idea was that, people should not only be able to visit the national parks, but they should also be able to support them if they wanted to. And so she, along with a bunch of other philanthropists like Lawrence Rockefeller, actually lobbied for the official charter that eventually established the National Park Foundation. And the National Park Foundation was supposed to be the official charity of the National Park Service, and that was passed by Congress in 1967. So the foundation strives to uphold the ideals of visionaries that helped establish the National Park Service, like Teddy Roosevelt and John Muir, those kinds of folks. But they also want to, uphold the commitment of First Lady, Lady Bird Johnson, and the other philanthropists to, continuing to beautify the country and allow people to support their national parks. So, in case you haven't guessed, the foundation, the National Park Foundation, is very dedicated to the National Park Service, and so they have very similar mission statements. The National Park Service's statement is really to preserve the natural and cultural resources and values of the national park system for the enjoyment of this and future generations. Now, the National Park Foundation's mission is to enrich America's national parks and programs through private support, safeguarding our heritage and inspiring generations of national park enthusiasts. So while the Park Service's mission is really more defined as actually protecting natural and cultural resources and keeping them around for future generations to enjoy, the National Park Foundation is really dedicated to ensuring that the programs and the projects that the Park Service is engaged in are going to keep going so that people can continue to enjoy the Park Service in the way that it's currently running. So about the foundation, like I said, it was established in 1967. It is actually based in Washington, D.C. They define themselves as an apolitical, nonpartisan philanthropic organization. So because the National Park Foundation, the National Park Service is a federal organization, the National Park Foundation doesn't want to ally itself with any one like religion or political party or things like that. Now, within the first 10 years of being established, the foundation actually awarded several grants to different places, and they really helped kind of keep the Park Service running, sort of the way it is designed to or supposed to run. They awarded grants to President Roosevelt's home in Sagamore, which is really cool. If you haven't seen it, you should look it up. It's really awesome. And they made emergency land purchases that helped save the Muir Woods, the Blue Ridge Parkway, and Gettysburg, among a number of other very valuable national parks, all of which are really awesome and cool. You should check them out. Can you tell I'm a park ranger? And so, now, the assets of the National Park Foundation, according to charitynavigator.org, are around $162 million. So they really have a lot of money that they can give to different things. Now, their mission is to directly support America's 417 national parks by raising private funds for the protection and the continuance of these national parks. So if you are a grant writer, looking to get some funding for your proposal, is the National Park Foundation going to be a good match for you with regard to geography? Short answer is yes. If you're based in the United States, they are going to be a good match for you. The National Park Foundation funds efforts to support 417 protected lands around all through the national park system, and that extends all throughout the United States. It's in the 48 states. It's also in Alaska and Hawaii as well. So if you're in a national park, they're going to be on your side. Now, is it a good match for you with regard to eligibility? That's going to be a little bit more limited. So the National Park Foundation only funds projects and programs operated and administered by the National Park Service and, of course, friends groups and partners working directly in the parks with the Park Service. So grant proposals have to come from National Park staff, friends groups working in the national parks, or Park Service approved partners. And although this is extremely limited, you have to be with the Park Service if you're going to get funded by the National Park Foundation. They actually provide this list of friends group partners on their website, which you can find by hitting this link right here. And a number of their friends groups, the friends groups of the NPS, are actually also foundations. And so if you can't really work directly with the National Park Foundation, you can look at some of their friends groups, which are going to have similar mindsets and missions, and you might be able to get your proposal funded through them. So that's another option for you. The programs that the foundation funds are actually extremely diverse, and they can range from small projects in little parks to large national programs. So whether you're a tiny little park trying to preserve this one species of frog, the National Park Foundation can issue you a grant for that. They do these things called impact grants, which are smaller sums of money. Or maybe if you're trying to engage a larger project like the Junior Ranger program or the Every Kid in a Park program, the National Park Foundation can also assist with that. So subject matter interests, are they a good match for you? Well, if you are working for the National Park Service, certainly the National Park Foundation is going to be on your side. The National Park Foundation is very interested in the same subject matter as the National Park Service. So basically the preservation of natural and cultural resources for this and future generations. Like the National Park Service, the foundation is very focused on the Centennial Campaign. So in 2016 was the centennial, the 100-year anniversary of the National Park Service. And to that end, Park Service was getting a lot of attention and funding, and so the National Park Foundation, along with the National Park Service, they worked together to try and prioritize projects that really could benefit from all of this attention and funding. And so this was the Centennial Campaign. And that campaign was to, the focus of that campaign was to find projects and fund projects that preserved, connected, or inspired. So they want to protect cultural and historical resources, and they want to connect and inspire this in future generations with their historical resources and their natural resources in order to keep people coming back to the national parks, to keep people engaged with them and enjoying them so that they can really benefit from this wonderful situation that's going on. So requests for proposals. If you have a proposal and you want the National Park Foundation to fund it, the National Park Foundation has actually said that they are diverging from the traditional RPF model and funding new projects. So because the centennial was last year, like I said, they are trying to prioritize the projects that are going to be in line with that centennial project mindset. So what they did was they prioritized those projects into a long list, and so right now the foundation is focused on funding those particular projects that are connected with the centennial. Those projects are projects, like I said, that protect, connect, and inspire. Now there's already a long list in place of projects that coincide with these things, these major goals or ideals, and the good thing about that is that this list is dynamic, and as projects are funded, new projects are added and those projects get funded, and it's just a very fluid list. It continues changing all the time. Now, if a park or a park plus a friends group thinks that they have a project that could be a centennial project material, i.e. a project that protects, connects, or inspires in some way, they need to you can contact the appropriate Centennial contacts at the Washington support offices. And the foundation does this really nice thing where they have provided the list of contacts by category. So what you do is you figure out which one of these things that your project actually does, and you can find the appropriate contact through the Washington support offices by visiting this link right here. So if you have a project, how much money should you request? Well, there is currently a pattern to the foundation's giving, and that is the Centennial Campaign. So you know, they really, like I said, they fund a variety of different projects. The foundation is fundraising for and dedicating $350 million to the Centennial Campaign for America's National Parks. And by the start of the Centennial Campaign last year, so in February of last year, they actually had already raised $200 million by the start of the Centennial Campaign. Before asking for money, though, you really need to determine which project your which category your project is going to fall under. Does it connect people to the national parks? Does it protect the national parks? Or does it inspire future generations? And according to their annual reports in 2015, which is the most recent one that's the most recent report available, the foundation had actually raised over $14 million for projects that protected the national parks directly. They raised about $16 million for projects that connected people to their national parks, and over $1 million for projects that actually inspired you know, the mindset and the mission of the national parks in people and other organizations. So what you need to do is base the amount that you ask for on the size and scope of your project. The foundation ranges greatly in terms of funding. Pretty recently, it actually gave $18 million to the very large project of restoring the Lincoln Memorial in Washington. And it also gives smaller impact grants, which are sums up to $25,000 to smaller projects. So determine what your needs are, the size and scope of your project, and you can ask for you know, different amounts depending on that. So the problem-solving approach. Now, the foundation has actually allied itself very closely with the goals and mission of the National Park Service. You just need to be sure that your project aligns with the National Park Service standards and operating procedures. And, you know, if you are an NPS staff member or a friends group working with the parks, which is the only people that can actually apply for grants from the National Park Foundation, you know, more than likely you're going to be on board with that. So what you should do is refer to the NPS mission statement and determine whether or not your project is in line with the Park Service standards, which is basically, like I said, to preserve the natural and cultural resources for future generations. Maybe replicate some of that language in your proposal. That could help your chances of getting funded by them. And yeah, that would help you out. So some of the trends that the foundation is very focused on, like I said, is the Centennial Project. You need to make sure that your project or your proposal connects, protects, or inspires in some way to have the best chance of acquiring grant money from the foundation. Right now, the Park Service itself is actually very focused on engaging the next generation, so the foundation is going to be also. There are a number of programs that the Park Service has already got in place for engaging, you know, young people with the parks. So things like the Junior Ranger program, the Every Kid in a Park program, you know, Ticket to Ride, things like programs like that that help get kids into the national parks and get them engaging with the national parks. Maybe see if your project can relate or incorporate those things in some way. Try to keep abreast of new practices and trends in conservation, youth education, engagement, science, inclusion initiatives, resource management, and other fields related to natural and cultural preservation and public engagement in order to have the best chance of you know, acquiring funding from them. So these are some of their recent grants. As you can see, they've got a number of different funds that they're allocating to different things. So for trails, they've got you know, 400,000 here. They have 18 million here, and they have about this is one of their impact grants for the Hawksbill Sea Turtle Protection Program. It's very different. And yeah,